Okay, so the plan, I don't know what we can, this, one of the things that was in the plan, which I'm still struggling with the schedule, this is the kind of schedule that I'd like to see, which is visual, and you can see the overlap of the items that are going on. These things here should be actually single line items, which is because they're reoccurring events, but I wasn't able to do it. I don't have the software I used to have access to, so I got to futz with that. But anyway, that's kind of the way I like to present it, as opposed to what we have in here now, which is accurate, but I mean visually you just see better with the things. And then I also came up with which is part of the handout for tonight.
We're several pages in.
It's on the end of this.
Lots of minutes. Yeah, in the very end.
Okay. Which was a draft report, not plan.
Okay.
All right. So, anyway, so on here, this was something I just, once again, showing that for talking purposes, for discussion, and this was kind of where, for the product that we will produce at the end. All right? And I just, once again, this is for, it's a draft, that people input and provide stuff in there. But one of the things that would be, I see expanding in here is the independent auditor, maybe more words on the matrix, I don't know. But, but once again, I don't want to wait until the end of the time when this thing, we've got to produce it, right? And then we're going to struggle with this, what's it going to look like, or how we're going to do it. That's why it's important also to talk to the auditor and get some sense of what they're going to produce that we can fold into this.
Well, I think we had identified this time to kind of work out those kicks, right? This was the time that we were going to kind of kick it around and see what needs to be, okay.
Yeah. So I think coming up on this month, at the meeting next week, they probably, the neighborhood commission would do a finalization of the plan, but I don't think they're there yet. I don't think, but it's from the committee.
Is that
that's mine.
Everybody's, you guys think we're ready to present their plan?
There's not a plan. There isn't a plan.
There's too many blanks in the plan.
And I don't think it's, I don't think it's critical that we go another month or so to get everything we need in there.
So what Commissioner Martin, this is mine. Thank you for, so the question I have is, our due date report is 5/9, that this is due out. Is that the way I read this correctly? The approval of the IDC report, is that at Neighborhood Commission approval? So I'm looking at the matrix of when this stuff's all due, right? So May 2nd.
May 2nd.
So, yeah, to Neighborhood Commission.
Yeah.
Right. When's our due date to City of San Jose staff?
The 16th.
The 16th.
It's the 16th.
The 16th, yeah.
Okay.
So we do it on May 2nd, the whole commission does it on the 9th, and then we got a week to turn it around.
If they have comments or something like that.
Right. So that all seems logical to me. So if I work backwards now, I mean, I've got 3 months to try to get all of that information in play, right?
Yep.
And we're talking about missions January right off the bat.
Yeah.
So my take on it is we're already a month behind schedule once we get into that. So I don't know that this matrix actually works, because you're also looking at 2/7, 2/14, as dates when the prototype report is ran, and you haven't even talked to an auditor. So your best guess at this point right now is that's when we'll be actually finding out who the auditor is, who they may be looking at, what the program is that they're going to set up, because realistically, they could give it to us in such a format that we don't need 2 months.
I'm hoping.
But we don't know that right now.
That's right.
We don't know that.
That's why I wanted to get the communication established so that they don't come to us and say, well, geez, if we know you needed that or wanted that, we could have given it to you. You know what I mean? So if we can kind of get a dialogue going with them and say, hey, here's what we'd like to put in the report. Can you provide that kind of data to us, you know what I'm saying?
Well, when we've met with the San Jose auditors in the past, that's exactly what she's told us in the past, is that let me know what kind of format you're looking for this to come out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that if we want to be proactive, we need to tell them what the format is
Yes.
that we want it in, right? And so
That's
what-
our suggested format.
Well,
Right,
that's
and
content, that's content.
That's content. The only thing that's missing
Right.
in this is budget. You know,
Right.
what was the prior budget number, right?
That's those columns on the right.
Yes, and that's where,
Well, no, that's approved for the funding numbers.
No, the columns further to the right.
Estimate?
Moving
those
forward.
are prior years.
No.
No. So what I'm really yeah, exactly. What I'm really looking at is, so if you look at this number and you go, next year I've budgeted $40,000 for roads and such. Measure B funding is going to add $30,000 to it. So I'm expecting to see a $70,000 number somewhere.
Right.
And I don't think this matrix allows that to happen yet.
Oh, okay, I see what you're.
I don't think it is 70,000, I think it's.
Oh, no,
annual,
yeah,
so
no,
it's
these people- yeah.
Like an example, right?
Period.
Yeah, but it's 30,000 period, which means that the true budget was only $13,000 or 13 million. Is that a realistic?
We need to show a comparison.
Yeah, exactly. That's
of
what's
the
falling apart
budget
for me.
before, if Measure B wasn't there, if there was no Measure B, what would that department get for budget? Is it 50,000
Or is it zero?
or is it zero?
Because the
No,
assumption here is it's only 13 million.
Yeah. So
13
then there should be a
million.
plus up, they should get
I'm lost.
they should get a plus up as a result of Measure B.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the part that's not clear.
Yeah,
and
and that's
the
what,
part.
that's what I would like to show in our report.
Exactly.
Here's the value added from Measure B.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this has changed from before?
Yes, it has,
Okay.
which is why I wanted Lee here to talk about it.
Oh, I see.
Because this is what happened after Lee and I had a conversation.
That's this one right
Yeah,
here.
this version.
So what we had here, Terry, was history. Okay,
Right.
so in 2014, 15, it was this number, because what we're afraid of is that they're gonna take some money out of the budget and then replace it with Measure B funds and say, look at that, we put $30 million into there.
You understand that's already happened.
It apparently looks that way, doesn't it? Yeah. What was the story on that, Sabrina?
So my conversation with Lee is that they do not currently, and it wasn't just with Lee, actually, I also spoke to somebody in the budget office, and she almost had a heart attack when I told her what you guys wanted. And this was the beginning of December that I had a conversation with her. Because this is not the way the city tracks its funding. So Lee said, this is my suggested layout, is to look ahead. That's why there's estimated versus
Right.
approved in there, because what they're thinking they're gonna get is not necessarily what they're actually gonna get. But I also wanted him here, so you guys could have a conversation with him, because I had told him,
That we want to have a conversation with them.
well, yes, that and, that you would like to be able, how else can you demonstrate how much these departments would have gotten
Right.
in the absence of Measure B funding? So.
Our job is to look at what happened before, not into the future. So putting estimates in years that haven't even started, it has no value to what we need to do at all. Our job is spelled out here someplace. It's that basically look at the revenues.
Well, that's what he's
blah, blah,
doing.
blah.
He's looking at the revenue dollars that may be estimated for next year. And so he said there's $36 million coming in next year
Right.
for Measure B funding.
Right.
You know, so as an independent group, first of all, is that the real number?
We won't know till.
Until the following year, right?
Right.
And so, in hindsight, then like you said, we're looking backwards at it.
Right.
Because once we get to that point, then it's like, well, okay, 45 million came in. Where did the other 9 million go? That's
Yes.
the
Well,
independent side of it, right? Instead of getting or is it going to other general funds? Because all this money goes into general funds, so,
but we did learn that the state is gonna actually cut a separate check effectively. So they're gonna know that that's that local sales tax increment, that it's not
Right.
part of the regular sales tax stuff. So we will have a real number which is how much money came in through the course.
Which is cool.
Which is at
Which
least
is
some
helpful.
real
That's very, very
information,
helpful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
a real
not
number.
lost completely in the general fund. I mean, once it gets deposited, it does, but we know how much went in there. And
Right.
we should be able to
So
break
that's
that
good,
down. Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
And then as the independent auditor looks at this, they should be doing that track number. So again, I'm thinking that at the end of the day, with an independent auditor, they're gonna make it pretty easy for us, hopefully.
You would like to think that.
Yeah, yeah, and once again, and I don't wanna, sound like a broken record, but I think we need to get that dialogue going with them. So we tell them, like you said, be proactive and what our needs and expectations are, so they can give it to us.
Right, so I think out of this meeting, the best thing we can do is ask for a meeting with the independent auditor as soon as that person is
Post-haste.
selected. Which I don't know if that's gonna happen or not.
Regarding communication, I did want to tell you that in my conversation with Lee, it will be Lee, who will be your point of contact on all of this in the city manager's office, now that he is there. Reagan is going to continue to have a very sort of specific focus, so,
Okay, is Lee's got a new job now.
yes, in the city manager's office, chief of staff.
So is he gonna be able to?
Yep, I mean, I
No,
checked
no,
with him about
I
this,
say
yeah.
this just because of his load. I mean, he's got a whole
I hope
different
so.
plate now, you know.
Don't worry, he's getting a huge raise to go with all the new responsibilities.
So where are we supposed to be getting our information from in regards to the finances and all the nice material that we need?
I mean, at the moment, I have reached out to the budget office and was told that to get a pass, at least, on this was going to take a month. So sometime next week, I should be hearing from them.
Because I mean,
And you guys would be here
Terry
next
gave a
week.
lot of great information, but it seems like, we're speculating right now until we actually able to get somebody in here, and so it feels like we're just kind of just floating around. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes. Which is why, I mean, in my conversation with Lee, we talked about him being in this meeting. It went to his scheduler.
Yeah.
Checked with the scheduler. He's not responded. He's not here. So, I don't know if it's some kind of emergency, which is possible, given his new job title.
Well, that's what my concerns are. I mean, like you said, he's got a whole different thing he's dealing with now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can just cut to the chase pretty quickly, though. I mean, there's not much we can do without having that information. So
From the
realistically,
independent auditor.
yeah, we need to know what that person is doing and what they're providing, whether or not we work with them to decide what we need, or they tell us what they're going to do. That discussion needs to happen.
When are we
And
supposed to get that information? When do
we don't know because we don't even know who that person is yet.
Do they have a timeline on when they're gonna get an audit?
I mean, they have to have an auditor by the end of the year, but do they have one that's going to align with
Is
your
it last,
timeline?
I mean, 2018 or 2018,
Fiscal year this year.
which is?
June 30th.
Doesn't work with our
See,
timeline.
that's too late.
That's too
for
late
us.
for you guys, yes, I understand. And Lee does understand that, he does do this timeline, so it's not that that
And then,
information is
we're
already
supposed
reached them.
to, and part of the results of what we do here is supposed to have some input to the planning for the city budget for the following year. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's,
Do we need to write to city council and let them know why we may not make that deadline? If this is the,
If we don't get any information, that's what our findings are.
Yeah, if the
That's
deadline
what-
stays and the starting line keeps moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's probably, that you get that compression, if that end date doesn't move and everything else gets compressed.
So last year we approved it as presented to us. This year we're actually doing more of an audit side on it.
Did you approve it last year? I thought you
We
sent
don't
a
approve
letter
it last
saying
year.
that you couldn't because you
No,
didn't
because we didn't
understand
have
what was
We didn't
going
have
on.
anything last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's no info at all. There's actually a lot more info
Now than there was
last
then.
year.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay, so then what are our options? I mean, it seems like we have to get this job done, but we're not being given the information
Right.
to do it,
Yes.
and yet the deadline looms. I don't want it to come to May and we're sitting there still going like, and they might come back and say, you didn't tell us you needed.
Right,
I mean,
that's-
other than what
Well,
Serena's.
but we already
doing.
have, it's already on the recording, it's already,
And this is
been
one of the reasons
documented.
I did that kind of
Right.
draft report already to stimulate some thought in our plan. Just talking point,
Yeah.
you know, so that people know where we're coming from. But it's essential we get that dialogue going. You know,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it's gonna help us, I really do.
So again, remark with District 9. That helps. Can we then move on and talk about the draft report that we've got going on right here?
Sure.
I mean, do we actually need to have all of the forward stuff on the draft report? I mean, do I need to have the overview, the charter, the scope of work, and all of that as part of this report? Or is it really just the matrix and then going to the commission? I mean, I'm not sure what this report is, right? So you're asking me if I'm giving this from a, you know, I don't need to know where it came from or why it came about or all of that stuff. I just need to know what do I need to do going forward as a independent reviewer on this. And so that's really only section 5.2, right? Matrix.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, this is just background.
It's
Yeah.
background
So that
and-
this
and-
one document has the report plus all the setup, so a version can come in and read this and just boom.
For the first
That's the
time
idea.
or what have you. It's, you know, we did this on the,
Yeah, no, I get all that.
no, we did this kind of with the drone report too, we did. We gave the background or whatever, and then got into the meat of, you know, what we did.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Yeah. I mean, is that the way that we're proceeding forward with all of these things? I mean, I'm looking for staff's, you know, recommendation here. I mean,
I think,
who's gonna read the report?
I was gonna say, I think the reality is, it is helpful to have this established up front in case you get a lot of people who don't
Right.
understand the process. Especially when we're talking about this being the first time you guys ever do it.
Exactly.
You're going to get a lot of people who do not understand that there is a separate independent auditor, do not understand the exact scope, do not understand your approach to dealing with it specifically, because a lot of it has been
We're inventing it.
amorphous.
yeah,
So it's helpful to have all that information up front.
cool.
I like that it's relatively succinct,
Yes.
guys.
I do, but to your point there, I think we're weak in the methodology part. I think we ought to really
Well-
explain more
Absolutely.
what our intent is, but
Yes.
without a job description of what the hell we're supposed to do, it's pretty hard to say,
Right.
this is what we're going to do.
And not
So-
knowing what we're gonna get.
Right, yeah.
So,
But
once
yes,
again,
I think
yeah,
that'd be useful.
that needs, that,
Yeah.
that absolutely needs to be, what do you call it?
Cool. I'm just doing checks and balances, sorry
No,
guys.
no,
That's all I'm
So
doing.
you're
No.
supposed to be too.
Just checks and balances.
That's why we're
I have
paying you.
no ownership in this thing, and it's put out there for everybody to comment on, really.
So if we go back to the scope of work, right, number one is create a process for appointing citizens to that. So is that process in place yet? How do we create a process for appointing citizens to the ICOC with explicit consideration that, or is that us as a
That's
whole
us.
group?
So that's
It's
this
been assigned by the council.
It's been assigned by.
resolution 78016,
Right, exactly.
which, did you get any luck finding that?
I'm just,
Did I?
Yeah. Did you get my email? If you go to the 2016 council agendas, it takes you to 2017. So the entire year is completely hidden.
I misunderstood you.
Uh-uh.
I thought you meant the commission agenda, so I was like,
No,
what are you talking
no,
about?
the council agendas.
Oh, okay.
So you cannot find this thing. And one other little, if you're doing the editing, Gary, on the last paragraph, that overview part, August 9th, you should say 2017.
Yeah.
That's the same
Yeah.
as, yeah.
What paragraph was that?
Last paragraph in overview on August 9th.
But it's not clear if it was
First
2016
page,
or
first page.
2017.
Just above the two.
item one, yeah, at the bottom.
Yeah, where it says, yeah, August 9th.
20.
The neighborhood commission voted unanimously to request the creation
August
of a standing
9th,
committee.
17. And technically, it was approved by the Rules and Open Government Committee, not the council.
Where are we? I'm sorry,
Last
where-
paragraph in section 1.
Yeah, rules committee, not council.
Rules and,
Open Government Committee. I was reading this, I must say the past tense really threw me. I'm like, it took me a while to figure out this was a report, not a draft.
Just to let you guys know, the city of San Jose does actually have the city's official way of writing it is with an accent on the E.
Accent on the E of San Jose.
Yes.
Mhm.
So
Alt 0233.
all Jose's will be changed to Jose.
Was it?
So, just so you guys know.
You can fix your spell checker in
Yeah.
your computer.
I just do, I do find a
I
place.
think Word
Yeah.
gives me that.
Has it always been like that, or is that new?
It has been since I've
10
been
years.
here, so,
Quite a while, yeah.
It's been a long time.
yeah.
Anyway, let's
It's
move
kind of
on.
all over the place.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we should really just accentuate the part where it says San Jose City's 2016 Measure B quarter cent sales tax ballot measure. That's really the way it's
Yeah.
written
Yeah.
in the, and so I think the quarter cent sales tax should be put in there. rather than-
Paragraph,
Kind of distinguish it a little bit.
paragraph two?
Yeah, 2.1, where it says charter, and then the second paragraph.
I'm sorry, Jim, what was that?
Where it says San Jose City's 2016 Measure B quarters, it says, just says Measure B sales tax ballot measure. I think we should put quarters cent sales tax ballot measure.
Actually call it the local sales tax, that's how they define it.
Is that how it's worded?
Yeah.
You know, it looked funny when I was reading it.
Somebody sent, when we get that, somebody send me an email or something, and I'll do this globally, because what you want.
Line by line, line.
And we'll do, yeah, because that's that's easy to fix.
Because I've got a couple other
Yeah,
corrections.
by that quarter percent,
Well, as staff, when we're talking about communication, it would be best for you to articulate them here in the meeting, because it's publicly recorded.
Okay.
And then for logistical ease, for you to then maybe send them to him so we
All
can
right.
incorporate them.
Okay.
But I think you do actually need to talk about what they
Yeah.
are during this meeting. Okay.
I've got a couple more.
Okay, what is it?
So in the scope of work, 2.2, in the last, actually, there's, yeah, this, it's like the last sentence, which says, I'll just phrase that, in its role as the ICOC review local sales tax revenue annually and report findings to the city council on the local sales tax measure during the annual budget process. So include findings on that, because that's really what we're doing, we're reporting findings.
Right.
We're not auditing, we're not researching a lot of things, we're just reporting the findings.
Were you on page one?
It's on page
Page
two.
Top of page two.
Page two.
It's the last
To
line.
the last line, which says
Report.
revenues annually and report findings
Findings.
to the city council. Another thing I'd like to maybe change is in number 3, the ICOC membership is limited to neighborhoods commissioners who have volunteered. Because we're all volunteers. We weren't, appointed, we weren't assigned, but we raised our hand and we said, hey, we'll volunteer to do this. Just like that stated. So people understand that, we weren't recruited. When we were recruited, we were assigned, but we
As a
were volunteers
commission.
within the commission.
With the individuals.
Yeah. Okay, and then 5.1, the independent auditor, independently audited sales tax review data was provided to the ICOC by San Jose City Manager. The data was audited by, and then, and this has kind of changed a little bit. We don't really know who the auditor is, but the information is going to be provided by the Wilcox, which is actually the city manager's office now. So is that correct, Sabrina? The auditor really isn't going to provide that to us?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
That's what we need, that's part of that methodology.
That's
we
part
need,
of that.
Yeah.
I wrote down the question.
Yeah, city manager's office or the budget office or whomever is going to be doing that. So that's basically what and I'll send this to you.
See, like when I, in my homeowners association, we have a CPA come in who does, he audits us. And that CPA furnishes us, the board, a report. You know what I mean? That's the report, comes from the, it doesn't go through our manager. The manager tasks the CPA, pays them and all that, and we put it, but that report comes to the board,
Yeah.
not through the city manager, or through our association manager. So, okay, it's just a point.
Yeah, we just don't know that yet.
Right.
Okay.
Well, one thing that I noticed, maybe if it's there, somebody could point it out, but on 2.1, it talks about the ballot measure. Everything's kind of outlined perfectly, but I don't see the other part, because on our budget sheet, it talks about how some of it's going to be allotted for the homeless, and I think that that might be something that you might want to add.
No, homeless wasn't on the ballot.
Not under ballot measure, I don't think, well, look, I have a copy of
Well, then you're talking about then it needs to be
Yeah, it's right
explained
here.
elsewhere.
Yeah, it needs to be explained on this
In this
sheet.
thing.
Yeah,
Well, that'll be on here, right?
I think it should be included on the draft though too, if we're gonna talk about everything else that's gonna be, we're gonna be looking at.
It is on here, it's on reduce homes.
Because I think he wants to,
No, on the
somebody
draft.
to explain
Yeah,
in the
exactly,
report
yeah.
why
It is on this,
it's
but not
on there.
draft. Yeah, yeah. Right.
Is that that way on MBA 14?
It is, that's why it's
Oh, yeah,
on there, is because
that's
it's an
right.
MBA 14.
Yeah.
But
Circled it.
nobody, it doesn't say, I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding.
All right,
It
but-
doesn't say it explicitly in the report.
Yeah, and that's something that I was
Okay.
kind of looking at, can possibly get added on there, to explain it a little bit better. We're gonna include it on.
Okay, the measure B
You're bringing up an interesting question.
to fund. Okay. The actual measure B, that paragraph is the actual measure B funding wordage that was on B,
Wasn't
okay?
valid.
Shall the city enact the 4% sales tax for 15 years, providing about 40 million annually, requiring independent citizens oversight, the public review of spending and all revenues, okay? So it says, emergency, reduce violent crimes and burglaries, improving 9/11/emergency medical/fire response time, repairing potholes in streets, expanding gang prevention, and maintaining the city's long-term financial stability. Does not specifically mention in the measure homelessness.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just saying that if it's gonna be on, you know, if we're gonna be looking at the allotted money on here,
Yeah.
I think
All right.
that
So that.
we need to be able to justify that on here.
Is how
Well,
we
that
got
could-
these categories.
Yes, I thought,
How do
okay.
we
Because
do
this
that?
was to provide for
That's-
partial.
that's my
funding that started to
concern.
come in last fiscal year.
Got it.
And because
Yeah, and that's
this is
kind of
a
a
relatively
thing
rich
as
line
to
item, I did add it
how
on here, but
does,
that's what's not part
that
of it. It
fit
doesn't,
in
it
with
doesn't
the-
fit in with these.
Although this has other openings in there.
Well, maybe, yeah, I mean, it's not
Yes, it
specific,
does,
that should
because
come under
That's
financial
what's gonna happen.
City.
Who's gonna set the budget?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
That's
some
what I'm getting
wording in
at.
there.
So this is gonna change every year.
Maintains
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
But
So, going back
you
to.
might want to have a
I-
broader
Yeah,
conversation
see,
right now.
it's
about
not
what
specific.
There is a
Well, long-term financial stability is very big.
wide.
Yeah,
I missed that part.
They said, maintaining the city's long-term financial stability is very big. It could be anything.
Right.
Using another pot. Yeah.
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 So, but, and then I think this
Exactly.
came up at one of the meetings with Cox was, or something, it came up somewhere where that was meant, how, why is that part of that measure? Because it's in that
Yeah.
memo,
Well, that's what I'm looking at this memo,
it's in the memo,
and this memo says, but this memo is also very open-ended.
yes.
And this thing is gonna change every single year, depending upon how the budget's set. And we don't set the budget. The budget's set by the city.
Right.
And so those numbers, they'll be setting those numbers. Our job as independent oversight committee is, again, these are the findings, this is what we found out, this is how the money was spent. The city said they were gonna spend $30 million on this, and this. Our independent auditor said that they spent the money on this, and this, and therefore, we're in agreement. That's our job. It's not all that other stuff. Yeah.
The way I've been describing it to people is we're reassuring the voters that it was a legitimate ballot measure.
Yeah, the money's actually getting spent.
So we're saying, yeah, they did what they said they were gonna do, or they lied. And that's really.
That's all we're doing.
It's a very crude way to put it, but really that's what people are looking for.
And to me,
is
if
it
they
done
want to
properly?
pass another ballot measure,
Yes,
they need to comply.
demonstrate, yeah.
They need to comply. I mean,
Yep.
this is gonna be, because if they don't, then you say, hey, we did measure B, and you said you guys are gonna do this,
Right.
and you didn't.
Right.
So it behooves them to do that.
So this other part, are we gonna be putting that under financial stability then? Or we're just gonna leave it as other on our matrix?
I'd leave it on the matrix and report on it, and then let the chips fall.
So we're gonna
That's
change the
fine.
title though to financial stability?
I
Or,
think,
Where is it in the matrix? Where's it?
Other.
the last category.
I mean, it's-
Other.
it's just other.
I think
It's the last
the
one.
confusion comes in that the ballot measure language is listed here, right?
Right.
Yes.
And then you guys are listing the methodology as having to do with this memo from Norberto's office, but you're not specifically calling out the disparity
No.
between the two things.
No, we're not.
In the report.
Right.
Correct.
Well, not yet, right?
Well, not yet, would
Yeah.
you like, I guess?
Well, I think we should.
Well,
I think we should.
Absolutely.
There is,
Yeah.
there is a disparity before we
Yeah.
call it out.
Doesn't
Well, I
make it
mean-
wrong,
No,
no,
it's
just,
just, it is.
here's
It
the.
is a
It
thing,
is
but
what it
I
is,
think
yeah.
just if a new person, a newbie walks in and is reading this, they're going to be confused as to why there's suddenly a new category in the matrix that nobody talked about in the text.
Correct.
That's what Rich is talking about.
Yes.
That's exactly it. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a bigger question because that's a moving target. It's going to change every single year. You could redefine this and say, one time instead of homeless, it's BART, or, it could be anything in that category, realistically.
yeah, so, I mean, if we're gonna, develop a matrix, I think that we need to be able to, I don't know, we need to put another word there besides other. So when somebody else comes in, they could be, there could be more clarification when they bring this up and they kind of look back at the measure because, as we're, the 2.1, it doesn't mention anything about other in there. And if we're able to kind of, mark it to something in there so people could refer to that and go, okay, that's what they're talking about. Here, the financial stability, if we're gonna say the reduce homeless goes with that, then to me that makes sense.
Or you need to call out in the methodology every single time you do this, why there are categories missing, like financial stability in this instance, and additional categories added.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
perfect,
matters.
yeah.
I
Thank
think
you.
we just say, hey, this wasn't in the ballot measure.
However,
And it was added.
it is a reality
Okay.
that it exists.
And here's where they
so-
said it was gonna go, we can analyze whether the money actually went there, whether it was appropriate or not is
That's right.
not really important for us.
I'm not gonna make judgments, we're just gonna.
Yeah, and when coming in just blind looking at it, I didn't think anything bad or indifferent about it. It was just, it makes sense to me the way the process they're going through. So, and again, our position is that was what was allocated, and did they
Right.
spend that money?
This is what you said you were gonna do. Did you
Right.
do it, yes or no?
Yeah, exactly.
That's all we have to do.
I mean, you can really dive into this a lot deeper if you want to, but we're not the auditor.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
no, we're not.
At the end of the day, we're not.
Well, we may end up with some questions as to
Oh.
why those things were made, but
Absolutely.
but we don't
That's
know
totally
anything.
legit.
100%
We're reliant
Yeah.
on whatever.
So what was the resolution on that? What did we say we're gonna do?
Hold off until we find out what our job description is.
I think that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we're still missing some information here.
But Rich has
These
got a
numbers
really
are all
good
gonna
point.
change.
Yeah.
As we get, next year, these numbers are all change.
Yeah.
Because supposedly, if money was put into each one of these pots, these issues should go down, and we should need less money for these. It's
No,
ongoing.
but that's not necessarily true because realistically, the shortfall on spending for potholes and stuff like that is so huge that it won't actually go down and it'll actually keep raising because then you recycle.
And that may go down, it's gonna change.
Yeah, it's gonna
It won't
change.
go down, it'll change.
Yeah, yeah.
An example is Station 37.
Right, that will go away in
It'll go down,
Right.
but not for a while. Eventually it may go away, but they're still gonna need funding for manpower, so that means stays.
That's a different number, is it not?
Yeah, wasn't there a body?
Because this is a one-time funding
Yeah, it
to
says one time.
pay down, yeah, this is a
For
one-time,
fire.
yeah, Station
Almost
37.
$5 million.
So it should go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should go away. But ours isn't to set the budget, ours isn't to
Right.
say we think that money should then go towards
Well,
this. I mean, not now, this year.
right now, I just meant regarding Station 37, it is one-time funding of 2.1 million in earmark reserve as a down payment on preliminary additional estimate total amount of blah, 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 to supplement this whole thing, and purchase necessary furniture. So it could in theory be that there is a Station 37 in the future that instead of going to purchase furniture is used for something else and is just a different number, so it might not go away.
I see what you're
It's
saying.
not gonna go away real quick. No, it'll go down.
It might come out of a different budget.
That's
Yeah,
true.
the
It
budget's
might
not
just,
using
then it could be
Furnishings
off
might
this
be some
one.
other place, yeah.
Right.
But this is all we gotta deal with it, yeah. You know, and it's this MBA 14 is the.
The one you wrote.
Yeah. I have a question on that, actually. So the date on MBA 14 that we're analyzing here in 2018 was May of 2016, right? There's nothing that we have in our little midst that's May of 2017. So what are the projections for the spending of the $40 million this year? In
So
other words,
the-
where's MBA 14
That's
for
what
this
they
year?
were
The
That's what they were
estimate,
supposed to give us.
the estimate for fiscal year 17-18 is
Yes.
36 million, not 40 million.
For the revenue side, but
Yes,
what
on the
about,
revenue side.
what about the expense side?
That I'm waiting to hear back from the budget
They were supposed to
office
get an
from.
update on that.
Yeah,
Wait.
We were, I mean, that was one
Yeah.
thing we discussed when we were councils.
Which is okay.
so that should be forthcoming. I've already asked for it.
So what is the timeliness? So what our report is gonna end up is an analysis of what happened 2 years ago. We
Yes.
will in May of 2018 burp out a report of what happened in May of 2016. You know, what good does that do in terms of the city's planning? What's our real value added here, other than this, they spent the money where they said they were gonna, which is important. But it seems like we're a year behind.
The
and-
16-17 and the 17-18, at least the estimates should be coming in for this year,
For the revenue.
for the revenue.
Right.
But no, and some of the line items should be in here as well. I do not have a response to you yet about how this looks, because my conversation with the budget office was, hi, here's a new process that you're gonna have to do annually that you didn't know you had to do before, so let's figure something out for right now. But you guys are gonna have to tell me how long this is gonna take you and when it, and right now they're just scrambling to get me the information. And we're gonna have to have a conversation internally about what the procedure looks like moving forward year over year, because they don't have one yet. We're inventing it right now, so,
Who's our report going to at the end of the year? I mean, are we,
council.
it's going to council? Now, I'm just, kind of thinking from, an outside perspective, if they kind of knew what was taking place currently as far as us not being able to get the information, I mean, I would have to concur with Mimi about, would it be beneficial for us to send them some sort of an update, like, this is where we're at?
I think it's a great idea.
Kind of
We're the squeaky
help us
wheel,
out a
right?
bit.
There's
Yeah,
also-
Well-oiled.
There's also nothing preventing you guys as commissioners from having a conversation with your council office staffs about this. Right? I mean,
Do
I
you
can
think
let
any of
them
them
know.
care?
Oh,
I think they're going to care if what you're
Come
saying
May,
is,
yeah.
in come May, it's possible we're gonna turn something in, and it's going to start to look like there's a pattern that you guys are not getting us the information we need to do our job that you assigned us, they might care then. Especially because 2018 is an election year.
Would it make sense for the chair of this group to send a note to Roach's office, being the liaison, and to the city manager? And, we've been meeting, it's our fourth meeting, we're still nowhere.
You're not
Wouldn't say it in
nowhere.
exactly those words, but,
You guys have done everything that you can do without
Right.
additional staff support.
Yeah, and I think that's a progress report. This is a progress report on the standing committee of where we're at.
That's a great.
Right now, we haven't got a lot of information to act on and report findings, but we have been doing it for the last, several meetings. So we've met on these certain dates, this is where we are, we've got certain things accomplished, but we're not really getting where we really want to get to.
And that we're concerned about getting there at all.
Yes.
Because to the
And-
point
and
earlier,
we're-
the deadline stays as we compress the schedule,
Yeah,
we're in
exactly.
another trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that, I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
My thought was, I was thinking of, the Rules Committee. I remember when they had their committee about the Neighborhoods Commission, and they brought up, brought up us on this committee. And I was just thinking that they might need to be included, or it might be helpful if they were included about what was going on, since they're the ones that kind of, it seemed like, were approving us as being on this committee. On that video, yeah.
So you mean specifically, I'm trying to understand, so you mean calling out specifically the mayor, the vice mayor, council members, Davis, Jones, and Camus, because those are the members of the Rules Committee?
Yeah, exactly. I think it might be beneficial for them to get an idea of what's taking place, because if I remember correctly, they were the ones that were discussing as far as the Neighborhoods Commission actually, still taking this project on. If that was clearly.
But I thought the appointment of this task came from city council, not from the rules committee.
Yeah, we've been assigned it
Yeah, we were assigned by city
Yeah.
council.
before.
And it was part of how the verbiage in passing this measure was that there was going to be an independent body to audit this. So would we want to do both? Have our chair send an update explaining, the hurdle on the road, and then for us to as well communicate with our own council members, kind of like just really, greasing the wheels a little bit so we can do what we need to do?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
What do we got?
So we can,
9, 5, 6, 10,
Very spread
3,
out.
which is a good spread.
It's good.
Yeah, and 1.
Very good.
I think that it's a great idea to send it to other council districts and not just Don's office.
Right, go ahead.
yeah, we want to help them be compliant so that they can tax us more in the future.
Yes. Well, and we want them to be informed, and we want them to be informed about what we're doing. The Neighborhoods Commission is working on it.
Yeah.
They're trying to.
Okay. So are we in agreement? Do we need a vote? What do we need to do?
There is no vote on the
Okay.
agenda, so.
All right, so I
Maybe
can
just agree.
draft a memo, I'll put something together, and maybe by next week's neighborhood commission meeting, I can circulate that amongst us. We can take a look at it, or whatever, but I'll try to put something together.
That we could then send to our council.
I'll take a look at it, or to whoever it's going to, it's gonna go to Rocha and, primarily Rocha and.
And we're saying all of council, the mayor and all of council.
Everybody.
Okay, and the city manager's
Shotgun.
office.
Uh, I'm having Brown Act concerns at the moment.
Yeah, we can't do anything next week unless you do it all on your own.
Or we do it independently.
Or we do it independently. It's going to be funny if we have the same independent letters.
Well, no, we can't have the same independent letters,
I think we could all send.
but we can all talk to our own
Okay.
individual council members.
Yeah, we
About the
can do
concerns.
that.
Yeah.
We can do that, and that may be the better way of handling it.
Then,
A formal letter out.
oh, I just need to know.
I like the idea of a formal letter, because then it documents it, not just me talking with my council person on a one-to-one basis.
Unfortunately, that can't be agendized until your next
Right.
meeting, which would be in February, so
Right.
that's just, I want to make sure you understand it.
What's that letter going out in May?
No. If you do it in February, you can send it in February.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just looking at our normal
Yeah, exactly,
schedule.
like it's always
If
been,
I come up with a draft memo,
if they go out.
Let's see, that's gotta go to,
right, if I come up with a draft memo and send it to you to send to the rest of us, is that kosher?
No, because we can't actually do business.
I asked Sabrina.
Oh, okay.
No, I can't pass it along because it's a violation. Were this an ad hoc committee, that would be fine.
Yes.
However, you guys are a standing committee, which means you have to abide by all the transparency rules of the Brown Act. Which means that if there's anything that needs, anything that the public could potentially say, how did this happen? We don't understand where this came from, you're in trouble.
So you
So-
almost, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So can we agree on 3 bullet points that we're going to communicate? Like, these are the main 3 things we are communicating, kind of like to get things going. Like, A, we need water. B, we need a bucket. And 3, we need wheels, And then everybody sends their own personalized message to the council member. Would that work?
I would suggest, anytime we get to the word agreement, I start to get anxious, because we're bound by what's on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so this is not, we cannot have this conversation officially because it's not
Okay.
on this agenda for approval.
Well,
If you guys wanted to, you've had a conversation, you've all been here. That conversation, I assume, would inform the chair's draft, which will be agendized for the February meeting, which you can then approve and then officially send, right? What you guys all do independently outside of that is not my business.
but if we go to B, where the action is vote to approve changes to the plan and pass along to the whole commission next week, this is a change to that plan. If we add this dilemma,
Yes,
this problem,
this is part of
and we
the
say
plan
what we'll do, we'll add to
discussion.
the plan the fact that we want to write a letter for help, then we can vote on that right now.
Well,
Or-
unfortunately, what is in front of you is not the plan, but the report. And it was just made clear to me at the beginning of this meeting that that was my mistake, and it should have been the word report. So I will change that in the agenda moving forward to reflect that, which means,
Okay, but, and while and we need to come back to what we just said here, but while we're on the topic of agenda, these agendas are extremely rigid as far as if we're looking at these, and they're too narrow. We need to have some flexibility, just like what Pete was discussing here, vote to approve change to the plan, or, review the plan, continue to revise the plan, discuss impacts or problems or something, so that we're not, we're not here. You know what I'm saying? What we want, what your discussion just said, well, we can't do this. Well, how could the agenda be worded so we could?
okay. My problem isn't so much,
I'm trying to comply.
Right,
not
I
to not
understand.
comply.
I'm trying to explain why I'm struggling. If we were still discussing a plan and not the report, then you could, because we're talking about procedures as opposed to something very specific, which is the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where the crux of the problem is, which easily could be fixed if we added a C, 1 for a plan and B for a plan and C for a report. So you could have them both on there?
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
Also, in the plan, let's go to the plan, let's segue to the plan just for a second. In paragraph 5 of the plan, we talk about the committee schedule, and in there, we talk about figure 1, which is 5.1, which is the events and key milestones. Okay, these are being impacted by our lack of input from certain entities to perform our tasks.
Yes.
So that's a plan discussion.
Yes, but unfortunately, the plan is not agendized on this meeting agenda.
even though it calls it.
No, because you pointed out at the top of this meeting, I made a mistake, and that this was a report and not a plan.
Draft report.
That's where we're running into problems.
I see.
But what if we stir into the draft report that we've had some difficulties getting information, or however we want to
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
put the predicate down, and then to wrestle with the problem of not getting information in a timely manner, we felt it was important to write a letter. So in other words, we could make this part of the report if we're witty, and that would then, we could be approved under the changes to the report. No, excellent.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's just the way-
unfortunate, no, it's
Right.
unfortunate, we gotta, you
Yep.
gotta do this.
Yeah, we do, but, but we can do it, as I think. I mean, do you see any
Yes,
problem
but
with
then
that?
you guys need to tell me what needs to change in here for that to happen.
Well, so we'll
For
wanna
there to be a
add
vote,
into the
we need to
report
motion and all that
That
stuff.
we had some startup problems? Would that go under the methodology? Or should we add a history section, or how do you want to do that?
Is the agenda set for next week's meeting already?
Yes, it went out yesterday. They always go out a week
Week
ahead of
ahead,
time.
yeah.
Well, in the ICOC meetings, ICOC meetings were conducted in accordance with San Jose Brown Act acquisitions, blah, blah, blah. And we were unable to get the proper information to go forward.
In a timely manner?
Pardon?
In a timely
In
manner.
in a timely manner.
Mhm. And
Right.
therefore, we felt it was important that we write a letter to ask for help. I mean,
This is
I'm
going into the report.
stretching it a bit here,
Yeah,
trying to get here,
yeah.
but,
I'm trying to fit it into,
yeah,
Page 2 of 6 in the report, under the 4.
four, yeah.
for.
The information that we're missing is from the city manager's office or from the auditor's office?
City
Or the
manager.
budget
City.
office?
Because
All
the
the
city
above.
manager's office is providing information to the independent auditor.
I'm kind of curious about this. So we're on the agenda for the commission meeting next week to report back on our findings. Now, is it possible that when we report back, the neighborhoods commission can take up the issue on writing this letter?
It's not agendized.
Okay.
But I'm on
And
the
it cannot be
agenda,
agendized anymore.
I'm on the agenda
So you can get a report on.
to report,
The
and as a
reality.
result of that report, can the neighborhood commission take any action?
No.
Oh,
Just a
To be
report.
agendized.
See, that's,
It's okay.
But we can change our report to reflect that we're unable to move forward because of lack of information. Be right in
you're talking about this report?
this report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is
Which
in a.
would then allow you guys to have something
Yes.
to do between now and February when we would have unofficial
Okay,
letters.
so what do you want me
Right.
to add and where?
Under number 4,
Under 4 IOC meetings.
I conducted in accordance with San Jose City and Brown Act
Right,
requirements, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Provided support the meeting's agenda, notices, and minutes. We were not able to move forward
After several meetings,
after several
we
meetings.
were unable to move forward. So, well, we were unable to move forward because we didn't get the information.
Right, in a
from-
timely manner.
In a timely manner.
Well, you're concerned about the schedule.
No, we're concerned about the lack of information that we're getting on.
Which
Well,
is impacting.
Which is,
impacting
which could
our
impact the final
timeline.
schedule,
Yeah.
exactly.
Our
I mean,
timeline
it's
and
a
our
schedule
schedule.
thing,
Yeah,
you know, yeah.
I call it, schedule time slash timeline.
Correct.
Right.
Agenda next week.
And that's just
And
information
that's part
back
of
to
our
the,
report.
that's just information back to the commission.
Well, it's information back to the commission, but by doing it in this manner, that allows us then to write our letters.
Well, you can write your own letter right now without
Right.
having to go to commission, so that's not
Absolutely
a
right.
problem.
No, I mean, right from the subcommittee. So Gary needs to write a letter.
Yeah, but it's still gonna be a
give
whole
us some
month before
visibility.
we can do anything with it,
Yes,
yeah.
this is accurate.
Really? Why is that?
Well, because he needs to be agendized for you guys to, he doesn't have a draft yet. He'd have to produce a draft for you guys to look at and approve.
Does-
At the
do
next
we?
meeting.
He can't just write one? Why don't we just give him the job of writing it?
We can't vote on it.
It's,
Unless you were to say, as such, the commission or the committee, I'm sorry, not the committee. I don't want to suggest language, it makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, no.
It's just
Let me
language to
ask you
put into
this,
the draft.
right now, a quorum for us is 4.
Yes.
If we had an ad hoc committee of 3, is that kosher?
No.
In our committee.
You can have an ad hoc committee and a standing committee on the same topic. That is not allowed.
But I gotta tell you, what you're bringing up though is correct, because moving forward next year, if this goes as an ad hoc committee, then it gives you some more freedom. So instead of being a standing committee, standing committee this year to set up all of this standard really makes a lot of sense. Moving forward, we may not wanna be, yeah, exactly, because then all of a sudden it gives you a little more freedom.
Yes.
It's just this year you're kind of stuck in this rigid.
Because we need more than the 6 months.
Right, exactly, yeah, exactly. Because you're setting up a standard and a process where once that process is in place, it may be as simple as the audit report came in, here's last year's previous data, here's what we found, here's what happened, and it may not be a 6-month process, it may be a 2-month process.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to reinvent.
Exactly, exactly. We won't have all these discussions in theory going forward.
We'll have lessons learned hopefully after this, and then.
Exactly,
move on.
exactly. Yeah, so I think
Well,
there's a
yeah.
good chance the standing committee goes away next year and you go back to
So, after several meetings, we were not able to move forward because we did not receive needed information in a timely manner.
So,
Careful.
Therefore,
careful.
we have to add something to the plan, a change to the plan, to the report.
The
That we now
information that
approve.
we wanted was what? And those 3 items that you were talking about can be listed under the what?
The water, the pail, and the,
The bucket.
The wheel.
I mean, wouldn't they just be the questions that he said in his
Yes.
chair report?
Yeah.
At the beginning of this meeting?
exactly.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
The auditor
little short
questions.
piece of
Yeah.
paper you
Yeah.
got,
Yeah.
Put that in the what?
that one.
Yeah.
is it done?
Yeah,
Those
that
6 items, yeah.
This one.
7.
Can you repeat those?
Those are other questions that I had over there. It was
You're
this
so
one.
neat, look at that, I love this.
Huh?
I love this.
I wrote
So
them
neat.
down. They will be in the
No,
minutes.
it's
because
Yeah.
I just listened, you know.
I
go
have
back.
them written
Yeah,
down.
it's just the opposite of neat.
You'll see him next Wednesday.
I just have this whole
You'll have them
tape
next
with
Wednesday.
Yeah, but we can't vote then either.
No,
So,
Anyway.
yeah. What we want to do is put it into the plan, because then we can act.
Yes. Yeah.
So by putting it in the plan and making a change to the plan and approving that change, then we're allowed to do this.
Report.
Yes.
This
Yeah,
report, this is the
Report.
report.
Report,
not
I'm
the
sorry,
plan.
yes,
Just kind of
report.
crossed it off.
In the future, I have understood there will always be something in the manner of vote to approve changes to the plan as well as vote to approve changes to the
Yeah,
report
that would
and
make
every
life easier,
ongoing
yeah.
agenda moving forward as a standing committee.
So read what you got so far again, Gary?
After several meetings, we were not able to move forward
This was spelled pretty wrong.
because we did not receive needed information in a timely manner. The information required was blah, 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 that I had here, okay.
Therefore,
Therefore,
we authorized you, the standing committee authorized the chair to write a letter to the city manager's office, I guess, asking for help, or however we say that, asking for the improvement. Identifying the problem and asking for more
okay,
support.
yeah, well put.
And that will get agendized for the next meeting of this group.
No, I
No,
think
we
what
don't
he's
need to
saying
do
is that, especially because if you guys are writing it to the city manager's office, you do not need approval of the whole commission to do it.
Okay.
Got it.
If you are authorizing it to the council, you would need the entire commission's approval to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Got it. But if it's just going to the manager's office, then
You can do
it's
it
an inter-office
without.
amendment, right?
Yeah.
Can we come up with a way where Gary, when he writes this in an approved manner and it's all brown kosher, where he can get that information to us as the standing committee members, where we can then individually pass it on to our council members. So it wouldn't go to the whole council, it wouldn't even go to rules, it would just go to the 6 districts that we represent.
Where I start to have a conniption about official things going to council members is that if they ever have to discuss in the future the sales tax measure, 6 would be a violation of the Brown Act for the council, because there's only 11 of them. You can only go to a maximum of 5 if you guys are passing on something.
Are they discussing the sales tax measure, or are they discussing our report on the sales tax measure? Which are
It
two
would be the,
different things, right?
they would be, but I do not think any of you want to be the lawyer and having that conversation with somebody about why it's narrowly focused on just the standing committee of the Neighborhoods Commission handling the oversight of the sales tax versus the sales tax.
Realistically, though, you're right in that our council liaison is Dawn.
Yes.
And therefore, we should be going through Dawn to be
Proper.
kosher and proper. Because if not, we're kind of stepping on his toes and doing other stuff. So, I think that is something that's possible to do. To go just to Dawn as our liaison.
That would be fine.
Dawn,
However,
this is
getting it to you guys, I could do, as long as you were not going to pass it to any other members of the Neighborhoods Commission.
correct.
Well, can't you get info, you can distribute information, you just can't work on it. We can't have a discussion and process, I mean.
Well, that's
working-
why I'm saying, I can't share it with additional people because you guys are the max number of people on the Neighborhoods Commission who can handle something without it being a Brown Act violation. Well, actually, we're getting 2 new people, so I don't know what number we're at now, so.
We're getting what? Oh, you're not a commission?
Two new folks have just taken the oath who've been approved in the Neighborhoods Commission, but
Can we do it where at least you get it off to Dave Sykes, and we got
Sykes is the new manager.
new city manager,
Yeah, let's do
and
that.
at least we've got, something down on paper that shows we got a problem, and.
Yeah.
that'll
and I
be
can
enough
pass it
to-
on to you guys. That I'm saying I can, but as long as you guys do not share it with anyone else in the Neighborhoods Commission, because they are going to have to talk about the sales tax stuff in the future, so it has to just stay with you guys.
Got it.
But we can still communicate with our council member asking for assistance.
No.
No, okay, so
Well,
this is kind of that. Okay.
I think
You guys
what.
cannot share the letter.
Yeah.
No,
that.
just
we could
can I
talk.
independently call
I don't
Yes.
want to
Okay.
hear
You
anything
can do anything you
about
want.
this.
Yeah.
By yourself.
by myself? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Can we send it to Dawn's office though as our liaison before it goes
First,
to the
yeah.
city manager,
Before it goes to the city manager?
or as part of it at the same time?
I would think same time.
Same time is fine. I just don't want to.
Right.
I'm not as big fan of blindsiding
That should be
people.
fine.
Not either.
Well, isn't his office gonna know because they're liaisons at the
Yeah, see, that's the
neighborhood
thing, see, that's one of the things I get concerned of, and one of the things, I wanted that flow
That
chart
should be
from
fine.
Wilcox was workflow. What's the line of communication, what is the chain of command, okay? I would think, Neighborhood Commission, we would first communicate with Rocha.
Yep.
Because the liaison assigned to us, that would be my first thing, and then
Let him distribute
they
it.
go to the next step. That would be my first indication, but
But he's a conduit to council.
Well-
So he's the liaison for the council, not for the entire city. We've got
Which is
Sabrina,
why the city manager.
who's the executive secretary, or whatever your
Right,
title
which
is,
is-
and that's the path into the CMO side.
that's the CMO side.
Yeah, so we do have two
Two
groups that we
divergent-
speak to,
Right,
and
so
therefore doing Rocha
in this case, are we
and
going,
Sykes.
we're going directly to the city manager?
Yes,
Okay.
And to Dawn.
and to Don.
And to Don, okay, so we would CC him.
Or,
That's appropriate.
yeah. I would two them both myself. I wouldn't.
Two and, okay,
Yeah.
rather than CC.
You know,
two.
CC is sort of a.
Who has,
You don't count
who
as
goes
much,
first, is it to Rocha first, then the city manager? What's-
No, it can go at the same time.
No, in the address, what's the protocol?
I do the city manager first, because that's.
City manager first.
Because it's really Rocha, he can't do anything about
No,
this.
no, no.
It's
No,
advisory
there's
to
a
them.
certain rank, you have certain.
And maybe in your memo, you write specifically what we're looking for from each of them. So Sykes will have to kick somebody in the butt, and Rocha just needs to be informed that, things aren't going as well as they could for the ICOC, and we're concerned about being able to do our job. And you can just say what you want to those guys in that format. And as long as it becomes part of the report, right? So in the report has to be that we did this.
Right.
And then we're clean. And that's allowable action tonight, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's in the report.
Because you guys are making a change to the report,
To the
which
report.
you all will need to vote on. So somebody's gonna have to make a motion at some point,
Mhm.
and there will need to be a second, and there will need to be a vote, which I will record.
And before we do that, we had some other comments to that where, let's just do a quick overview, because if I'm gonna update this, I do it all in one fell swoop. I have a thing, I need to identify what the name of this thing is. We had some discussion whether it's Measure B, quarter-cent sales tax, or is it something else? What are we calling this? It's throughout here.
It's technically called a local sales tax, and that's what means the 1/4% comes just to us. That's spelled out someplace in here. All revenues controlled locally, so it's a local sales
I
tax is the
understand
term.
that, but specifically, it was the Measure B. It was a local thing, but specifically, it was the Measure B quarter-cent sales tax. And that's how it was identified in that measure.
Can't you just write the word local in front of measure?
Local Measure B, 1/4-cent sales tax.
That way it's just clear, I mean, it sounds,
I'm okay. I
if you
just-
want to add to it, you know, I mean.
I mean, we can parse this thing to death. I mean,
Yeah, well, that's my,
what's the value added here? I just want to, let's, and then I need, in all instances where San Jose is spelled out, it needs to be Jose with the accent mark.
Right.
All right, and then in paragraph 1, the last paragraph, August 9, I had added 2017. And then also at the very end of that sentence, it was approved by the San Jose City Rules and Open Government Committee. Is that correct? Is that the, okay, we added that. Following 2.1 charter in boldface, there it says Measure B, added 1/4-cent. And then it would also be local measure, I guess, B. Okay, and then next page.
In that paragraph area at the bottom where it's underlined,
uh,
I don't understand the stress of the underlining.
Underlining was to justify our existence.
Okay, then the last part of that, all revenues controlled locally, that would not get underlined.
Okay,
Lee just got back to me. He went home sick early,
okay,
so that is why. It was on his calendar.
okay.
He went home,
Okay,
ill.
I
I was
will,
home ill and had to deal with us.
all right.
Can't they be sick when I'm sick?
Okay, so then going to page 2 of 6, top of the page, we added the last sentence, revenues, local sales tax revenues annually and report findings.
Yes.
Okay, and then paragraph 3, the IOC membership is limited to neighborhood commissioners who have volunteered.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I had a caret here for paragraph 4, but for IOCOC meetings, I was gonna add something in there, but,
Well, that was the change that you were gonna add.
oh, that's where that's
About
going, okay, that's
the
where that's
report.
going, okay, that's
So
where
that's
that's
what
going.
the tax
Okay, that's
manner
where-
and
that's
all
the-
that
that's
other
the place.
stuff that goes in.
Okay, now we need an independent auditor, I just have a thing there, we needed to do something there, we need
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
That's the big blank in the blank.
Okay, that's what, does anybody, should do anything else?
Back on what your name was, so if I go back to this memorandum, it was called sales tax ballot measure, right? So, I mean, you could just keep that same term going along.
That would be good, shorter,
Yeah.
but it's gotta be the same everywhere.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I'm going off of what's in front of me.
Well, we have some other stuff like that, like SJ space CMO staff, and there's just SJ CMO, we just need consistency on
Yeah.
those things. But we could do what they do in a contract, spell it out once,
That's what I'm hoping.
and then
Good.
call it
Right.
ICOC after
Yeah,
that.
here and after, yeah.
Because these,
The use of parentheses, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be much easier then we can just say the tax measure or.
Yeah, perfect.
Right, so.
Were we gonna make that adjustment on 2.1 as far as clarifying the matrix along with the,
Or did you wanna spell it out in 5?
What do you think, like clarify, what do you mean?
The other category,
Oh, the
the
other category.
homelessness stuff.
Yeah,
The definition of
I'm reluctant
Yeah.
to do it in 2, because that's the wording of the measure. The fact that they've added homelessness in there is gonna be either part of the findings or something, or whatever.
Can we stick it in 4 where we're already doing our work and just put in there that we have a concern about, categories which are not in the ballot language?
Under
In the
paragraph four?
Language that you
In
just added.
paragraph 4, we just added, or what we're talking about, the letter,
Oh, okay, yeah,
so we can just stick it in there too.
yeah.
As an example.
Because the functional words in the ballot measure are city services such as,
I know.
so they are not limited to these things. And they can spend the money wherever they want, and there might be some money spent on retirement, things you have talked about that, so it's allowed, but we want to note it, that it's not the main categories that people
Right.
had in mind when they,
Yes. And I
walked
think
into the booth.
I mentioned that anecdotally, people that I polled informally on that sales tax measure, once I discussed this committee, did concur, without me prompting them, and it's strictly anecdotal, that they voted for those specific items in that measure, without the weasel words.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, once again, it's anecdotal, informal.
Not editorializing at all.
No, I didn't, no, I just,
Well, if weasel word, they was editorializing,
Well, they got a weasel, I mean, you can't be too specific.
I make a motion
yes,
that we approve the revised report as so outlined in your previous discussion,
I
and
second.
itemized.
I second.
He has to call the
favor,
question.
all those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
that was
Unanimous.
unanimous, thank you.
How quickly can we get that turned around?
We?
Yeah. Kimosabe.
Oh, you're all with me, Scary.
We.
Uh,
Oh, you guys are so funny.
As long as it takes me to decipher my handwriting, because I didn't bring my.
The only reason I bring it up is I really think we ought to get on it. 'cause
Oh, I know.
Every month we get the same.
No, I know,
Delay.
I know.